start, as we always do, we want to acknowledge the indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere. They are the reason that we are able to function in this hemisphere. We don't give any credit to the slave master and the colonizer for anything. They don't deserve any credit. We give credit to the people who have struggled a lot right along with us to regain their dignity. So we honor and respect the indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere. And when we say that, we're talking about the real indigenous people, the Chicanos, the Mexicanos, the Puerto Ricanos, the natives, the American Indian people. We're not talking about you Africans that are ashamed of Africa, so you're trying to make up some history that you've always been here and you have no evidence to demonstrate that whatsoever, because you haven't always been here. Sure, there were many of us who sailed here, but to try to act like that's a significant portion of us is criminal, and it's disrespectful to our history and our mother Africa. So we call you out on that nonsense. You don't want to identify as African. We haven't met the African yet who knows anything about Africa, who doesn't want to identify with Africa. The only ones that don't want to identify are the ones that are so dumb you could shine a flashlight through one ear and read a book on the other side. Hey, you know, African. So on that note, we give honor and respect to our African ancestors, because they are the reason that we are here. Even the ones that ain't no African, your African ancestors are the reason that you're sitting here right now today, eating potato chips, passing gas, defecating, everything that you do, because for a lot of us, that's the most productive things that we do in our lives. All of those things you're doing are because of the African ancestors you don't want to acknowledge and commemorate, but that's okay, because we know that once Africa is free, unified, and socialist, all of you ain't no African people, you're going to be trying to out-African all of us so you can get in line to get all of those rich resources that the world depends upon that do not come from New York City or LA or Louisiana, and they only come from Africa, the place that some of us are unfortunately still in 2023 attempting to deny. So we are thankful that you're here today to talk about African Liberation Day. We hope you're at your highest level of mental, physical, and spiritual health. And if you're not there, you're rapidly approaching. And we do our quick introduction for the program. Our Ancestors' Voices is a weekly program, same time, same place every week, sponsored by the All African People's Revolutionary Party, the AAPRP. And the APRP is, of course, a revolutionary, independent, mass Pan-African political party that is based in Africa. That's why we're not confused about who we are. We are based in Africa. We are not based in Northern California or Tennessee or Chicago, Illinois. We're not based in any of those places. We have Africans in all of those places, but we know who we are and what we're fighting for. We are based in Africa, and our objective is Pan-Africanism, which we define correctly as one unified socialist Africa. One unified socialist Africa, Pan-Africanism. We know that this objective, when achieved, will bring about all of the aspirations of African people everywhere, even the I ain't no African crowd. It'll bring about their aspirations as well. Our work to achieve Pan-Africanism is outlined in Kwame Nkrumah's Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare, and we encourage you to read it, not individually, but join the APRP work study process and read it, and or some other organization and read it, because it outlines our strategy of uniting all of the revolutionary Pan-African formations on the ground throughout Africa. And this is not just a vision we have, this is actual work that we are engaged in. It's actual work that I myself have had the honor and privilege to participate in all throughout Africa for years. So don't come to me telling me, oh, that ain't happening. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. This is work that's going on. And if you participate in our African Liberation Day webcast this Thursday, May 25th, you will see many of those revolutionary African formations on the ground throughout Africa participating. So just like everything else, the evidence is right in front of our very eyes, but read is the dirtiest four-letter word for African people that exist. So we got to start reading and studying so we can stop being so uninformed about what's happening with our people and our forward progress. And Our Ancestors' Voices is hosted each week by myself, Ajamu, and my biological and ideological daughter, Shakura. And we are both active second generation organizers within the All African People's Revolutionary Party. And so to get us started, I will happily and respectfully turn it over to Shakura.
Greetings. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So greetings, everyone. As we've already said, happy African Liberation Day week. Woo! We made it. Another year around the sun. Yes, we are celebrating Mother Africa, celebrating all of the victories and all of the opportunities for us to be free and to fight for being free. I definitely want to do our plug because we are so close to raising those funds. So please make sure you all donate to African Liberation Day by using the website abetterworld.me. Again, we're asking for donations through www.abetterworld.me. Please understand that that particular website is one of our many branches in ways that we are collecting money, because we hope that you will find one of those resources valuable. And so I would say the easiest way to do that is through www.abetterworld.me. But we do have Venmo, Cash App, and other channels as well. I will be happy to provide those as I wrap up my slides, okay? And so I want to start off by reminding all of us that the whole reason we need to acknowledge African Liberation Day and celebrate what is going on and why African Liberation Day exists is because Africa has not been free for quite some time. And so that means that we need to go back and think about what has really happened to bring us to this point where we understand that with colonization, Africa was under attack. Not only were the people of Africa kidnapped, we also had Africa, the land itself, that was stolen and was retaken control, not just by certain groups, but these groups met at one of the most important conferences in the world that all of us need to think and remember, the Berlin Conference, where you had people from Britain and you had people from Portugal, you had people from France, you had people from Spain, you had all these different people, and they sat around this table and decided how they were going to take control of you and my's land if you all identify as African. That was the whole basis of colonization at its best. That's what it was. Just as if you would go to a pizza place and you would divide up the slices of pizza, that's how Africa was divided up. And the reason they did that, which to me influenced 400, 500 years later, a lot of gang affiliation in terms of how we quote unquote claim sets and whatnot, as you had all these European countries that were claiming sets or marking territory, if you would, so that other European countries would not intervene with what their property was. So the whole reason that Senegal was colonized by the French was to make sure that Britain had nothing to do with that. The whole reason that Nigeria was colonized by the British was to make sure that Spain and Portugal had nothing to do with that. And again, these are reasons why some of these languages are spoken in some parts of the continent, but not in other parts, right? And so I think it's so important that we understand what has happened to us and that we do our research and that we talk about it with other comrades who have been colonized themselves or who understand more enough about this background to have more of an understanding and have conversations around why we need to be free. If you were to ask me to give you a breakdown in 10 seconds or less about why ALD is so important, it's important because we don't control the resources that come from our continent. And if we as African people don't control the resources that come from our continent, then how are we going to be able to control how people treat us? How are we going to be able to control how people seem to deem us as being respected? As we've said before, and we will say again, land ownership equals power. And if you yourself and the group you come from do not own the land that you descend from, then why would anyone respect you? So you have to ask yourself, well, Africans don't determine and control the resources that are produced from Africa. To this day, this is why we have cacao. To this day, this is why we have rubber. To this day, this is why we have minerals such as metal and cobalt. To this day, this is why we have opportunities to be able to advance technology. To this day, this is why we have agricultural and water horticultural systems. To this day, this is why gold exists. To this day, these are resources that are coming from Africa. 75% of the resources in the world come from Africa, but none of the African people can tell you what the resources are or determine how they are going to be controlled. This is why we have colonialist people who are making those decisions. And because they are in power of our land, they do not see fit for us to be respected, because we can't even tell you what comes from our home. And we can't tell you how it needs to be used, and we can't tell you what it needs to be used for. Yet they have all that information because they went in and they stole it and they removed us politely. And then they decided so many years ago, yeah, because they don't matter, we're not going to respect them even in 2023. So even when they vote under a capitalist system to have a president that looks like them, let's still make sure that African people are being gunned down every single day. Let's make sure they're not being respected. Let's make sure that they get diabetes, hypertension. Let's make sure they have mental health issues. Let's make sure that they are stressed out every single day. Let's make sure that the people who give birth to African children are dying while they are giving birth. Let's make sure their children are dying. And there you have infant mortality, right? Like all of these things, you all, they weren't by accident. They were intentionally set on us because we are a threat. Africa is a threat. And so African Liberation Day celebrates the fact that we are a very powerful people and we come from a very powerful place. But if we do not even accept and understand that, then how are we going to communicate that to anyone else in the world who may already know it? But the danger is that we don't know it. And so herein lies why Africa needs to be free. And herein lies why African people need to be free. And the best way to do that is to make sure that the land we come from is not under control of someone else who does not come from Africa and does not want African people to thrive and flourish. I just wanted to put a quick shout out to our comrade KD, who sent me the funding opportunities. So again, you all, we are asking for donations for abetterworld.me. You can donate for African Liberation Day through www.abetterworld.me. I'll say that again, www.abetterworld.me. If for some reason you would prefer Cash App, our Cash App is money $AAPRP. If you like Venmo, you can do @A-APRP. And if you prefer PayPal, you can do @AAPRP. I'll repeat those. Again, feel free to use www.abetterworld.me. But if for some reason you would really prefer Cash App, it's the US dollar symbol, lowercase AAPRP. Our handler name for Venmo is the symbol capital A-APRP. And our PayPal is again, the symbol capital AAPRP. I will repeat those again as we go to the next slide, please. All right. So, just keeping in mind with why African Liberation Day is such a big celebration for us, you all, we've concretely identified that the whole purpose that Africans are in the position they're in now, the whole reason is because our land was stolen from us and we were stolen from our land. Let that be clear, okay? So the whole reason that we're in the predicament we're in is because we didn't have the power to decide how these resources are being spent. Yet everyone else in the world knew how rich Africa was. They still know how rich it is to this day. This is why they still have their hand in the African pocket to this day. This is why. We're the only ones who don't know how rich it is. We're the only ones who are ignorant. We're the only ones who haven't been to Africa. But anybody else knows what the riches are that lie there. And they've been multiple times, to the point where they're determining how much rubber they get on a day-to-day basis. They're determining how much gold or diamonds they get on a day-to-day basis. They are determining how the cobalt is being used, how the cacao is being used. They get to determine all of that because they're aware of what's going on and what's being produced. They know the climate, they know the temperature, they know how much water is needed for the agriculture. They're aware of all of these things. We're the only ones that are out of touch. We're the only ones who are out of touch. And so this is why African Liberation Day exists, is because we need to do more investigative research on who we are. We need to do more investigative research on where we come from. And we need to do more investigative research on why other people need to get up out of our house. That is the bottom line, 10 seconds or less. We also need to understand, though, that this is not just the first year of African Liberation Day. African Liberation Day has been happening since before I was born, since before some of you were born, and even before the official date of African Liberation Day. When we think about the Pan-African movement that started in the 1900s, we need to even think about how even before that, we have always, as a people, understood that we need to protect our own. We have always, as a people, understood that if something wrong is happening that is bringing an injustice to us or a violent threat of some type, we are not a docile people, especially if we are being under attack. We have to understand that another reason for African Liberation Day is to remind us who we are, not who we were, who we are, who we have been this whole time. We just have not tapped into it. We have forgotten that our ancestors have been trying to let us know since the beginning of time who we were. And it's time for us to remember that. It's time for us to understand that we did not willingly walk on the slave plantation ships. We did not willingly walk through the slave castles. To this day, I was 4 years old when my parents took me to Ghana, and I was 16 when my parents took me to Senegal. And to this day, I'm going to try not to get emotional. To this day, I can still remember feeling the walls in Gorée Island in Senegal and Cape Coast, I think that's what it's called, for Ghana. And I remembered feeling the walls because our ancestors had scratched the walls, you all, trying not to get on the ship. Literally scratched the walls, fighting, trying not to get on that damn ship, okay? So we need to understand that's who we are. That's who we come from. We didn't just walk on board because we trusted the Europeans. We fought like hell because we did not want to end up in their mercy. And we knew that they were going to kill us or put us to work. That's why some of us jumped over ship, because we knew we wouldn't survive if we stayed on. That's why some of us killed ourselves before we even got on the ship, because we knew we wouldn't survive. If you are a parent, can you imagine killing your own child because you knew that if your child got on that ship, there was no turning back? I mean, just think for a minute about how long we've been fighting and how dangerous it is. If you don't know who you are, then somebody else is going to tell you a lie about yourself. Imagine that. Imagine that. I'm reading W.E.B. Du Bois, The World in Africa Now, in our work study, and we were talking about how devastating it was because each country would send ships left and right to Africa, picking up more and more Africans to be enslaved. And at one point, the British had sent over, I think W.B. Du Bois claimed, at least 6 ships that could house 400 people. Now, unfortunately, all 400 of us didn't make it because some of us died while we were on board. Some of us jumped overboard and we killed ourselves. Some of us died before we got on board. And then there were people who were killed. Some of us killed one another while we were on board, just trying to make a better lives for ourselves. Some of us asked for the other person to take our life, and we did it. So the numbers ended up dwindling down, Du Bois talked about, to closer to 240, 250 by the time the ship arrived at the next destination, as it started out with 400. But the point I'm making to you is there was never an opportunity where we did not fight. And if you do not know your background because you haven't read W.E.B. Du Bois, The World in Africa, or maybe you haven't read Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana, or maybe you haven't read Marcus Mosiah Garvey and Amy Jacques Garveyism, like if you haven't read these books, then you're not going to have the information. You're not going to have the statistics. You're not going to have the numbers. of how many Africans were truly carried on these ships. And that is very relevant to today's conversation, because if you ask me, African Liberation Day exists so that not only can we be reminded of what our ancestors did for us, but we need to be reminded of what we still need to do for those children to come who have not even been born. They deserve a better world, you all. They deserve a better world. They do not deserve this nonsense that we have today. They do not deserve to go to schools and be shot down. They do not deserve to go to schools and have to be forced to denounce their identity every single day. They don't deserve to have to explain their Africanness to people. They do not deserve that. We don't deserve it either, but we can do something about it. These children have nothing because they have not been conceived yet. So they are literally being born into a world where they have no control of the outcome. We can change that for them. But we need to get past our own selfish identities, and we need to get our stuff together. We need to join organizations that are working for justice. We need to register for African Liberation Day via the Zoom link so we can have a better idea of who we are and what we need to do to get our land back. It is very, very simple, you all. Join an organization that is working for justice. We never said you had to join our organization, but you need to join some organization. Because if you decide that you're going to make a change by yourself, no offense, but you're part of the problem. The problem is individuality. That is the problem. Capitalism thrives off of that. So if you are not feeling like you need to work with other people, that is a serious problem, and we cannot use you to help build our movement so that we can get what we need to get. As my grandfather used to say, we cannot use you in our business because you're not going to work for us. You're going to work for yourself. You're going to critique things based on what you understand, and you're going to have questions based on how you're comprehending things. You're not going to think collectively. No, you're going to think individualistically. And that becomes a problem. So again, we ask for your donations to support African Liberation Day 2023, www.abetterworld.me. You can also donate through abetterworld.me, or you can donate through Cash App, $AAPRP, Venmo, the symbol at A-APRP, or PayPal, the symbol at, again, AAPRP. We thank you so much, and we think again about our ancestors from the Pan-African movement, W.B. Du Bois, Anna Julia Cooper. We think about Marcus Garvey and the UNIA. We think about all of these examples of different organizations, some of which we agree with and some of which we don't, but they still help to pave the way for us to be where we are today. We think about Maulana Karenga and the US organization. We think about our comrades who are colonized but not from Africa, who have helped us to get where we are because of the work that they have been doing. And we continue to fight with them. And if you join African Liberation Day this week, you will hear from some of them. Because as I just said, we have a solidarity camaraderie with them. We're not rushing to get Africa back, but we don't want to help the indigenous people. We want them to get their land back too. So they humbly ask us to speak at their events, and we humbly ask them to speak at ours. You'll hear from the Palestinian Liberation Organization. You'll hear from folks who are working with the Irish Socialist Organization. This is an ongoing struggle, you all. It's not just Africans, it's colonized people everywhere. And we all have a responsibility to get our land back and to help others get theirs. The fastest way to do that is to join an organization that is working for justice and donate to African Liberation Day and Palestinian Liberation Day and Indigenous People Liberation Day and any other liberation days that you can support donating to. Ashe.
Ashe, obrigada. And I just want to say that, some of our people get really excited because I have conversations with folks and they want to talk to me about, like, for example, I remember Friday, had a conversation. The entertainer Lizzo is coming here, Shakura, to perform, and people were really excited. And everybody should be able to. Capitalism is devastating. So if you can find some place or some time to go and release some of that tension, then more power to you. But people were talking to me about her and all of these other people, these celebrities, and I wasn't responding the way they wanted me to respond, I guess. And they were like, you don't like any of them? And I'm like, not really. I mean, they're okay, but that's just not what gets me gets my emotional juices flowing. Those people don't do that for me. Now, if we want to have a conversation about the people on this screen, Anna Julia Cooper, Henry Sylvester Williams, W.E.B. Du Bois, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, then you'll get a ton of emotion out of me. So this is why we love African Liberation Day, because it's really representative of our dignity as a people. And so Shakur talked a lot about the Berlin Conference. And that's very important history, because that is the process that solidified the colonial, capitalist, neo-colonial, and imperialist structure of the world, which is dominant today and has been for the last 530 plus years. So the question we have to ask, if we understand that, and that statement that I just made is irrefutable, nobody can produce an argument disagreeing with that. It is 100% irrefutable. That is how the forces in power today gain that power, is through the theft of our land, our human and material resources in Africa. That's how they gain the power that they have today. The entire capitalist system was financed from the enslavement of our people and the colonization of Africa. So that all of that is irrefutable. So the question for why we say African Liberation Day is important, if you're in St. Louis, Missouri, for example, or Birmingham, Alabama, and you come across this telecast and you're hearing this and you're thinking, well, why should I care about what happens in Africa? I've never been there. I don't have any inclination to go there. I don't know anything about it. The Africans from Africa that I've met in the time I've encountered them here have not been very impressive. They clearly did not articulate any type of kinship with me, because that's where a lot of our people are at. So if that's you, the question then becomes, why should you care about Africa? Because that's what African Liberation Day is all about. And the answer on the screen is because whatever happens to Africa is what's going to happen to us. Whatever happens to Africa is what's going to happen to us. And the way I think we have to think about it is there are no people in the world today who have progressed. Like if you just look at this backward empire country, for example, there are all types of ethnicities of people here, right? Name one of those ethnicities of people who have a vision for advancement among their people while being disconnected from their homeland and their history. You can't do that. You can't talk about Vietnamese people and not talk about the connection of their history and culture. You might subscribe to some of the mythological backwardness. Oh, they just pull their money under mattresses and that's how they buy businesses. But that's not true, because I have an economics background and I can show you the data as to how those folks got loans to get those nail salons and those massage parlors and those places. They got loans through banks. They got that. It's just you don't get it. So because you don't get it, you don't understand that it does happen for other people. They did get those. They didn't, if you even understand anything about economics in this capitalist system, that whole concept about people saving $100,000 under their mattress because they all live together, that's a damn lie, you all, because if you walk into any place and say, I want to buy this building, and you have $100,000 cash, or even if you walk in a bank to deposit $100,000 cash, do you all not know anything about the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS? You don't understand that if you have anything $10,000 cash above, they are going to say, where the hell did you get that? And we're taking our 40% cut. So there's no way in hell anybody's saving $100,000 under their mattress. Only people that don't understand economics believe those types of fantasies. So no people are advancing in this society without being disconnected. A lot of those people were a part of the mercantile bourgeoisie class in Vietnam. And when the Vietnamese Revolution overthrew them, that war that this country went in for 10 years in the 60s and 70s, that one. When they went in and couldn't stop the Vietnamese from winning, couldn't stop the Viet Minh front from beating the hell out of the United Snakes of America, because that's what happened. When that happened, that comprador class, that bourgeoisie Vietnamese class, packed their stuff and came here. So the people that you see here are a legacy of that. They didn't just come here with nothing and build up by their bootstraps. You're a damn fool if you believe that. It never happened. It's not happened that way for anybody here. Everything in this damn society has been built on our backs. That is irrefutable. So stop repeating that stupidity and open a damn book, please. You're giving us ice cream headaches with that ignorance. Wherever happens to Africa is what will happen to us. There's no question about that. If Africa was not here, we wouldn't be here. If we were not here, Africa wouldn't be here. Everything about our future stuff, well, I admit I'm of African descent, but I ain't got nothing to do with Africa. That's like saying I'm made up of 3/4 water in my body, but I don't ever want to consume anything ever again that has water in it. I mean, that's the kind of stupidity that we're dealing with in 2023 and beyond. So that's why we're talking about African Liberation Day, because we understand whatever happens with Africa is what will happen with us. No matter where we are in the world, what language we speak, how we like to eat our food, what kind of way we like to dance, doesn't matter. That's still objectively true. And so just continuing on with that history that Shakura laid out for us, is that we had a series of Pan-African Congresses that Henry Sylvester Williams, Anna Julia Cooper, and W.B. Du Bois started in 1900 and carried them out 4 meetings between 1900 and 1945. And these meetings were primarily intellectual meetings with intellectual academic people. But then you also had the Garvey movement, which was a mass movement. And so all of that came together in 1945 with the 5th Pan-African Congress held in Manchester, England, which was convened by Kwame Nkrumah. And Nkrumah had the intelligence, more intelligence in his pinky than a lot of us have in our whole existence on the planet Earth. So he wanted to squash this so-called beef between Du Bois and Garvey. So that's why, as his co-conveners at the 5th Pan-African Congress, he had Amy Jock Garvey, the widow of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and he had W.E.B. Du Bois. So he addressed that in 1945. And some of you still today with Garvey, Du Bois and Garvey, haven't read a damn thing. Don't know any of the history I just spoke of. Don't know anything about the 5th Pan-African Congress. Probably don't even know how to defecate straight, but still running your mouth constantly in ways that damage our movement and our ability to move forward. So we had the 5th Pan-African Congress, and that was a mass meeting that had Africans from all over the world. And it was at that Congress that they identified the objective as one unified socialist Africa as the definition for Pan-Africanism. Not just, well, Black people getting together to trade money for products, not just, well, Black people getting together to wear dashikis and still promote capitalism. No, that's not Pan-Africanism. That's Negroes getting together to have Black capitalism. That's what those things are. Pan-Africanism is one unified socialist Africa, one continental government in Africa that is scientifically socialist and utilizes socialist policies and practices to disseminate the massive wealth in Africa, to address the health disparities that African people face worldwide, to address the food deserts that African people face worldwide, to address the security issues that African people face worldwide. We have the wealth to solve all of those problems. We just don't have the right mindset to take our proper position to take back what rightfully belongs to us. So the 5th Pan-African Congress was about putting those wheels in motion to give us that direction. And as I mentioned, Nkrumah convened it with Amy Jock Garvey and W.B. Du Bois. And everyone was encouraged to go back from the Fifth Pan-African Congress to their countries and initiate a mass movement against colonialism. And that happened. Everybody went back, wherever they came from. And the African independence movement was born as a result of the Fifth Pan-African Congress in 1945. And the reason why that's significant is the African independence movement influenced every African freedom movement on the planet Earth. You want to talk about the Black Panther Party? If you study the words of Huey P. Newton, he will tell you in his own words in Revolutionary Suicide and To Die for the People that the inspiration for the Black Panther Party came from the land and freedom movement, the Mau Mau movement in Kenya. If you study John Lewis, the congressman who was the chairperson of SNCC, in his autobiography, in his memoir, he talks about how much the U.S. civil rights movement was inspired by the SNCC organizers and their experience going to Guinea at the invitation of Sékou Touré and the Democratic Party of Guinea, and how the dignity that was displayed, and everybody knows anything tangible about Sékou Touré knows that dignity was very important to that man. And that's what he talked to John Lewis and Miss Fannie Lou Hamer and Ruby Doris Robinson Smith and Cleve Sellers and all of the people in Guinea about. Go back to the U.S. and fight for our people's dignity. Tell them that they're African and they belong to the African nation. So the African independence movement lit the flame for the Black Power movement and all the movements for Black Power in the Caribbean and in Europe and in South America. And all of this was a part of the Pan-African movement. Just as all of the images you see on your screen, the Cuban Revolution, the struggle for dignity in Guinea, the overthrow of Ghana and Kwame Nkrumah, the experiences of the African Party for the Independence of Guinea-Bissau, the PAIGC, to run the damn Portuguese out of Guinea-Bissau, and to continue to this day to be fighting for Pan-Africanism. The work of El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, Malcolm X, and the founding of the Organization of Afro-American Unity, and his work with the revolutionaries around the world, all of this is a part of this Pan-African movement and this work. And so that's why we say African Liberation Day is our freedom tool. It's just simply a mechanism, you all, for us to make our people aware of some critical information. The critical information is that African Liberation Day is the only institution among African people that talks about the need for us to unite no matter where the hell we are on the planet Earth. You didn't have any decision in where you are. I mean, we think about it for a second. Did your family say, you know what? We really want to move to the US. Take out colonialism. Colonialism never happened. All right. We're in Africa. Europeans are in Europe. Indigenous people are here. Colonialism never happened. Did your family say, well, you know what? We really want to just, we think we'd be better off in Cincinnati, Ohio. So we'll just pack up and go. That's not what happened, you all. That is not what happened. So the fact that we're in these places has nothing to do with us. So I don't know why we feel like we have to claim it. Yeah, I'm claiming what's important, Africa. That's it. So what we're saying about African Liberation Day is that it's a tool to get our people to understand that we should unite all over the world. No other institution is doing that. Name one. No other institution is doing that. Juneteenth is trying to make us think we're free in 2023. And that was never the real original intention behind Juneteenth. But we don't study the history, so we don't know the European Judeo-capitalist system tells us that it's a day to celebrate the end of slavery. So, okay, well, if the master said it, that must be what it is. So that's how I'm going to do it. I'm a barbecue, and I'm not going to do a damn thing to advance our people's liberation. I'm a barbecue and get drunk. So this is why it's important to have African Liberation Day, because it's an international tool for Africans everywhere on earth. We don't have anything else that does that. And it's a tool that's uncompromising. It's independent. It's not owned by Wells Fargo. It's not owned by Allstate Insurance. It's not owned by Lloyd's Bank of London. It's owned solely by the masses of African people. And because it's owned by African people, we can tell the damn truth. And the truth is these capitalist empires have been built and maintained by stealing from us, and we're sick of that nonsense, and we're organizing to take back what rightfully belongs to us. And that's what the Pan-African movement is about. We're not asking for anything. We're not going to our slave master and saying, well, can you give us a check for reparations? I hope you get the check and have a damn heart attack, because that's a direct insult to our ancestors to beg the people who represent the system that enslaved us to give you some money to somehow justify 530 years of terrorism against our people. You can have your damn check. I'm saying it public, I don't want your damn money. I'm organizing to take back everything you stole from us. You don't have enough money on earth to substantiate what you stole from us. And I'm not gonna cheapen and sell out our people by taking no monetary amount. Pan-Africanism is not about any of that. It's about us organizing to take back our dignity. Dignity will never come from a check. Dignity will never come from a payment. Dignity can only result when you stand up for what rightfully belongs to you as a human being on the planet Earth. And that means the ability to govern yourself and to make a positive contribution to take the world forward. And I don't give a damn if you get $5, $10,000, $50,000. That is not going to enable you to do any of those things. All that's going to enable you to do is do what you're already doing, spending all your damn money with the slave master. You have a few more trinkets to show for it. And then you can't ever talk about how they have built this backward system on exploiting us ever again. And some of you are okay with that. Some of you are okay with that. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're okay with that, you're a damn sellout and not worth the whatever comes out of me when I sit on the toilet. I'm telling you point blank, that's how it is. And if you don't like it, then you came to the wrong damn place, because we're not going to sit here and cater to a bunch of nonsense. We're sick of that. This is our week to commemorate our struggle for freedom. We're not going to deal with no fake stuff today. No stuff to make people comfortable. Stuff to make people feel like they're doing okay, even though they're being exploited. No, we want to stand up and destroy this nonsense. So that's why African Liberation Day started as Africa Freedom Day on April 15th, 1963. I know people are pissed. I don't give a damn. You should be pissed. And if you're pissed at us, that's your problem right there. You should be pissed at the people that created all this nonsense. I'm pissed as hell. So if you're pissed, God damn it, let's do something together. It's about time. It's about time. So ALD exists to breathe life into the dreams of the 5th Pan-African Congress, the work of people like Kwame Nkrumah, Sekou Touré, Patrice Lumumba, Amy Jock Garvey, all of the millions of Africans who have struggled for our liberation. That's what African Liberation Day is about. It's no compromise, no retreat, no giving up, no selling out. Stop talking about, well, the Uncle Tom is Clarence Thomas. Yeah, of course Clarence Thomas is an Uncle Tom, but so is Barack Obama, so is Oprah Winfrey, so is Jay-Z and Beyonce, so is LeBron James. All of them have sold out to the capitalist system. We don't want to hear anything about it. We'll watch them play basketball, but we're not going to sit here and let you tell us that we need to listen to a damn thing they need to say. We ain't interested. We're talking about an independent movement for our people's liberation. African Liberation Day, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the revolutionary intelligentsia. We're talking about the working class, both the service working class as well as the industrial working class. We're talking about the peasantry. Those are the three elements that make revolution. That's who we're concerned about. We are not concerned about the petty bourgeoisie. We're certainly not concerned about the bourgeoisie. And if you don't know the difference between those different classes, then that's your problem. That's why you don't understand what we're talking about. Well, I'm fighting to get in the middle class. There's no such thing as a middle class. That's capitalist bourgeois nonsense. You're either part of the people's class or you're part of the anti-people's class. And the people's class are the elements I just named: the revolutionary intelligentsia, the working class, industrial and service, and the peasantry. You ain't a part of that, you're a part of the anti-people's class. Plain and simple. The concept of African people everywhere, thousands of languages, 120 countries coming together. No other institution promotes that except African Liberation Day. That's why it's so important, because it's that unity that is the key to our forward progress. Not, well, I'm gonna give me a check from the government. Well, I'm gonna go here and get some property in Honduras or Puerto Rico. That's not the key. That's just an individual thing for you to do, for somebody to do. It's not solving our people's problems. What we're talking about here is about solving our people's problems. And we don't want to hear nothing about we can't do it, it won't happen. We don't even speak that language. You speak that if you want to, but we're not trying to hear that. We know what our ancestors endured to get us where we are today. So we know there is, as Sekou Touré said, there is nothing that human beings cannot do. That's what we believe. If you don't believe that, I just feel sorry for you. You're wasting up space on the planet Earth. Do something about it. But we believe there's nothing human beings cannot do. And we are going to move forward until we have victory. And we also, as Shakur mentioned, we uplift other liberation movements, because we know we're not in this struggle in a vacuum. And we got to wake up to this. Well, other people never did anything for us. Well, yeah, you say that because you don't know anything. Nobody's saying that. Other people never did anything else is involved in revolutionary work. I'm telling you that right now. No revolutionary talks like that, because revolutionaries know better. Now, if you're involved in some petty bourgeoisie nonprofit or some other kind of petty bourgeoisie work, then you probably believe that, because you don't have exposure to movements, because movements don't exist in those circles. But any revolutionary knows that all people coalesce on the question of justice. It's unavoidable. It's a dialectical reality in the universe. If you're fighting for justice, you're going to come across all types of people who are fighting for justice in a genuine way. And so you understand that. If you're just doing some stuff to get a paycheck or some funding, then you won't understand that, because you're just doing stuff to get a paycheck and some funding. You're not trying to do anything that's really going to overturn the power structure. So you'll never understand it. You'll just stay in that lane forever. And that's a lot of our problems. So African Liberation Day 2023, we have a theme, as we do every year. The theme this year is imperialism and neocolonialism must be destroyed. Africans stand ready for revolution. Imperialism and neocolonialism must be destroyed. Africans stand ready for revolution. We in the All African People's Revolutionary Party are proud to help organize and sponsor African Liberation Day commemorations this week around the world. We are doing it in Zimbabwe. We're doing it in Kenya, in multiple locations in Azania, which you call by the colonial name South Africa. It's happening with people in Senegal. It's happening, we're doing it in Burkina Faso, in Ghana. It's happening in Sierra Leone through our good comrades in the Pan-African Union of Sierra Leone doing African Liberation Day. Some of the people that we work with as a part of building this All-African Committee for Political Coordination, as well as our other comrades in the Pan-Africanist Congress in Azania, what you call South Africa, and AZAPO, the Zanian People's Organization, other comrades in the All-African Committee for Political Coordination work. And of course, the African Party for the Independence of Guinea-Bissau, the PAIGC in Guinea-Bissau, we're doing African Liberation Day, a main element of the work to build the All-African Committee for Political Coordination. And I'm a proud member of the All-African People's Revolutionary Party and the African Party for the Independence of Guinea-Bissau. And we are rocking it for African Liberation Day in all of those locations this week. And we are having it in multiple locations here in the United Snakes of America. It's happening in Baltimore, Maryland. It's happening in Atlanta, Georgia. There's African Liberation Day in Brooklyn, New York. There's African Liberation Day in Oakland, California. And I'm probably missing some of the commemorations, but we're going to give you the website to go so you can see where they are. We're organizing it in 2 locations in Canada, Calgary, Canada, and in Toronto, Canada. And we're organizing African Liberation Day in multiple locations in Europe, as well. And in the Caribbean, in the Virgin Islands, we're organizing African Liberation Day. All over the world, African people are coming together. And we're coming together to unify, because we know that's the we do this. We come together. We didn't have to wait. We didn't need Netflix to do a documentary about us coming together. We didn't ask them to do that. We didn't need Amazon Prime. We didn't need Xfinity. They didn't have anything to do with our African unity. We've done this organically on our own. It's independent. It's genuine. It's revolutionary, you all. That's what it's about. That's what we're doing. That's what African Liberation Day is all about. So our theme is there. It's our independent revolutionary institution of principles and action. Principles and action. On the screen, we have our wonderful, immortal comrade, Sister Theodora Gomez, who was an instrumental combatant in the PAIGC's war to run the Portuguese out of Guinea-Bissau, and is an active member in the PAIGC today. And when I was in Guinea-Bissau in January, got a chance to sit down and talk with her and listen to her inspirational speech to the opening of our All-African People's Revolutionary Party Congress, and how she talked about, she dreamed about that since she was a little girl, and how it fueled her fighting, shooting guns at the Portuguese, because she knew we would be free and we would be unified. And I ask you, how the hell can we hear that and then just come back here and sit down and eat and drink and not do a damn thing to fight for our people? I don't get it. I don't understand. So this is our motivation. Maybe you don't understand it. Maybe if we said we going to the club and lifting our drinks, maybe you can understand that, because maybe that's your motivation. I don't give a damn about that. This is what inspires me in my life, what we're talking about right now. So this is why this is our week. And we want to invite you to participate in it, because this is good for our people. And we said this, African Liberation Day is the only independent institution for worldwide African unity and liberation. It's the only one we got that's talking about that, the necessity for that. So of course we want to build it up. We got to do that. And we understand, we hope you understand, or maybe you say, well, they're just crazy. And it's fine if you say that. No problem with that whatsoever. But we will say this. You can say that all you want. It's not going to stop us from doing this work. It's not going to stop us from moving forward. It's not going to stop us from doing anything. And once we reach a point of critical mass, you're going to be right there with us. You know, I've seen it my whole life. You're going to be right there with us when we reach critical mass. The whole time denying everything about what we're doing and saying. And when we reach that point, you're going to be right there. Oh, you know, I was saying the whole time that what y'all was doing. The only reason why I wasn't in it is because I just had to give my life to it. But I'm here, you know, I've been here the whole time. That's what a lot of people are going to be saying. We know that we know it's going to happen. That's fine. No problem with that. But we get excited about African Liberation Day. We get excited like a lot of you get excited about your born day or Miss Christ or whatever the hell it is when you graduate from one of these bourgeois institutions. We've done all that, but that just doesn't move us the same way. What moves us is the idea and the action to liberate our people. That's what gets us excited. We get so damn excited about that, and we will continue to do that. So we just want to invite you to share in that excitement. And the way we do that is in big letters on the screen. Go to AfricanLiberationDay.net, AfricanLiberationDay.net, and find out where the nearest African Liberation Day commemoration to you is. And also plan to participate in our International African Liberation Day webcast on May 25th, Thursday, the actual day for African Liberation Day. It's an international webcast. We'll have a lot of the entities we talk to you about all the time participating from all over the world, you all. And if you know people, we'll have translation, Portuguese, Spanish, French, English, all of that, so that any African can participate. And The information about the webcast is on that site as well, africanliberationday.net. You can register. Please do that. Please tell people. Obviously, CNN and CIA are not going to broadcast Revolutionary African Liberation Day. So we need you to help us spread the word. Make it your business to say, I'm going to tell at least 3 people about African Liberation Day this week. And as Shakur said, donate. We're trying to get our little goal for this program. She named all the party sources. She's on the administration committee. They organize our finances, her and Comrade KD, she mentioned. So they're both on administration, so they're much more knowledgeable than I am. But you can go to betterworld.me and you can donate there, or you can go to Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal. And like she said, if for each of those, if you type in APRP, our actual address will come up. So make a donation. Next week, we're going to talk about on May 27th, Pan-African Women's Day. Shakura will be solo because I'll be traveling, but she will be here to bring to you another important institution in the African liberation movement, Pan-African Women's Day, just as, if not more important than African Liberation Day. So join us next week, same time, same place, and go to the Forward Ever shop to buy something. Buy someone an African Liberation Day present. That's a wonderful idea. And then again, go to africanliberationday.net for any information about our webcast this Thursday and any of the on-the-ground African Liberation Days around the world that are happening this week. Go to aprp-intl.org and join the All-African People's Revolutionary Party. Yeah, you know, if anything, you have to say, well, damn, them people passionate as hell. Yeah, we believe in what we're doing. We believe in it 100%. We're not in no idealistic sense. I'll die for the people. Well, of course, but we don't want people to die for. We need you to live for the people first. So that's what we say. We are committed to living for our people, and that's what we do. And betterworld.me, donate, and also hoodcommunist.org. Outstanding site. Please support it. All of our programs listed on the screen there. Support each and every one of them, please. Come to African Liberation Day, and please continue to promote my book, A Guide for Organizing Defense Against White Supremacist, Patriarchal, and Fascist Violence, A Guide for Organizing Defense Against White Supremacist, Patriarchal, and Fascist Violence. We really appreciate you hanging in there with us. Make a commitment to participate in African Liberation Day this week. Make a commitment to tell at least a couple of people to do the same. This is how we build, you all. We got to come together. And once we do that, no force on earth will stop us. We appreciate each and every one of you. Stay strong. Don't listen to what these people are saying. We are winning. Forward ever. Backwards never. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. We'll see you at African Liberation Day.